We're celebrating tonight 35 years of honoring outstanding individuals who have demonstrated excellence in volunteerism and leadership. They have contributed to the positive development and economic growth of the Mid-Columbia region and committed to improving and enhancing the overall quality of life in the Tri-Cities. This event is proudly brought to you through the collaborative efforts of our local Rotary and Kiwanis clubs. I'd like to take an opportunity to thank all of those representing a service club in attendance tonight. The other disclaimer that I have to make is, again, following this script without my glasses means that I'm going to have longer arms or more light, but either way, we'll get through it. We'll all grow old together, if nothing else, right? So I would like to take an opportunity to recognize those who are representing a service club that are in attendance tonight. Your dedication to building community through service is evident this past year as you've emphasized service to children and youth, both through initiatives intended to improve the quality of life of children around the world, seek equality, peace, and international goodwill. We also want to thank you for providing humanitarian service that encourages high ethical standards in all vocations and will help build goodwill and peace in the world with the development of effective leadership skills. Please join me in welcoming all of those that are a part of a civic group, Rotary or Kiwanis or any other civic group tonight. Thank you for being here. We applaud you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Miss Tri-Cities. I believe she's in the room. Janae, there she is. Awesome. It's a great pleasure. If you would, please stand and welcome Miss Tri-Cities of the Year, Miss Janae Calloway, and join us as she sings the national anthem.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets roared roar, the bombs bursting
It is my honor to introduce the past recipients of the Tri-Citian of the Year. And I just have to say, a friend of mine told me, why do we have this? We have this event tonight to honor all of those who have made this community a better place to live, raise children. And tonight, you will see that these people who I am going to introduce haven't stopped doing that just because they won this award. They continue to make this world and this community a better place for all of us to live. So, no applause until I'm done. I'm going to ask each of them to stand. From 1982, Dean Mitchell and his wife Helen. From 1985, Bob Young. Representing the Boston family from 1986, Betty, Brian, Carrie, and Anna Boston. Representing from 1987, Coke Roth, his wife Mary, and daughter Soleil. 1992, Bill Lamson and his, let's see, she gave me the right thing, domestic opposite sex partner, Kathy Balcom. Sorry, HR people, I was given that term, okay? 1996, Jack Briggs and his wife, Wanda. 1997, George Jones and his wife, Pat. 1998, Dean Strawn and his wife, Sandy. 1999, Dr. Ray Robinson and his wife, Marilyn. 2001, Fran Frigette and his wife, Debbie. 2005, Calvin Dudney. 2006, Frank Ormijo and his wife, Sherry. 2007, George Garlick and his wife, Carol. 2008, Mike Schwenk, and unfortunately Sharon couldn't join us tonight, but thank you, Mike. 2009, Ken Hohenberg and his wife, Trish. 2010, John Umbargner. 2011, Skip Novakovich and his wife, Shannon. 2012, Ron Huey and his wife, Joan. Oh. And 2013, Alan Brecky. Where are you, Alan? There he is. So please join me in this wonderful video that was put together for PS Media to honor our past Tri-Citians of the Year. And you may be seated. Thank you.
Oh, hello. I see you're admiring my collection of Tri-Citian of the Year portraits. Each of these recipients truly deserve being honored as Tri-Citian of the Year. And as you know, tonight we are honoring a new Tri-Citian of the Year. So before we begin, let's have a toast. Where's Chris Watkins? Chris, would you please lead us in a toast before we begin?
And yes, Ellen, I would be more than happy to lead in the toast this evening. Good evening, everyone. It is absolutely wonderful to be here. This is indeed an evening of celebration. It's an evening that an individual in this room is going to receive the Tri-City's highest honor. And I'm always excited about this event because I'm always second guessing. In fact, I have a couple judges at my table, not judges, but on the selection committee, and they are not just even giving me a hint. So I'm really looking forward to this. This individual is going to join a very illustrious rank of 42 previous Tri-Citians of the Year that truly demonstrated passion, they demonstrated leadership and service in helping the Tri-Cities economy, in actually shaping the future of the Tri-Cities, and contributing to all of our quality of life. I'm going to ask that you all stand and join me for a toast. And raise your glass. This toast is to the past Tri-Citians of the Year. We thank you and greatly appreciate your hard work and dedication to the Tri-Cities region. Cheers. Thank you. Now, before I leave the podium, I have one very, very pleasant duty to do. As most of you know, Lloyd Swain is with Charter Communications. And for the past 25 years, this gentleman and his crew have been taping the Tri-Citian of the Year so that they can view it on Charter and also have that for future reference. And Lloyd has seldom missed a year, and this year's no different. Lloyd is with us today, but it is his birthday, and I think that, yeah, so Lloyd, you're clear back there. Could you raise your hand? And back there. Just wait a minute, Lloyd. Woo-hoo. Back there we have Barb Johnson, and Barb has a cake, birthday cake. And I would like you all to join me in singing happy birthday to Lloyd Swain. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lloyd. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Lloyd, and thank you for everything you've done for our community. Much appreciated. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much. We hope you have a very enjoyable evening, and our program will start directly after dinner. Thank you.
I would like to, this is the part of this particular ceremony that I'm extremely excited about. We get an opportunity to hear from a young man who does things we only read about, some of us. As far as I'm concerned, when I had an opportunity to do something that was, at the time, it was important to me when I played professional football. I thought it was great. I would talk to little kids, and they would be like so happy to just interact and have fun with a professional football player. But we have amongst us a real hero. And I'm going to introduce someone who's going to introduce him, and then I'm going to sit down and enjoy, like the rest of us, sit down and hear this awesome story from Kenny. But it's a tremendous pleasure to introduce Pat Kenny. He is going to introduce our keynote speaker, but Pat is a past president of the Sunrise Rotary Club. He is an independent financial advisor. He has been a board member for Camp Patriot, where he met Kenny Thomas at one of the Mount Rainier climbs when Kenny was there to support injured vets. Pat was a Marine himself, a Marine aviator from 1968 to 1974, and served one tour in Vietnam as a helicopter pilot. Please welcome Pat Kenny.
Well, it's a great crowd out there tonight, and enjoyed meeting some old friends again that I haven't seen for quite a while, and I welcome you all here tonight. I'm excited. I'm excited because of our speaker. And I want to tell you a little bit about a young man. He was born in Georgia. He became a storyteller. His nickname is Cornbread. Seriously. Back when he was in the military, he was one of the few people that liked the cornbread in the MREs. And so they started giving it to him to eat, and he picked up the name Cornbread. Stuck with him, and he'll tell you a little bit about that. 20 years ago, that young man, it's hard to believe that it was 20 years ago, Kenny. Summer of 1993, he was deployed with the 3rd Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment to a dump pit of humanity. And I say that because at that time, there were so many problems there, you didn't know who the problem was. He was in Mogadishu, Somalia, where the poor and the hunger and inhumanity took on a whole new meaning for Americans that were there. Now I'm going to skip real quickly to 2008 when I met our speaker. I met him up on Mount Rainier, and I was with Camp Patriot, and we were taking wounded warriors up on Mount Rainier. And we had some guys that were damaged pretty heavily. And I met this young man that came, and his name was Kenny Thomas. And I didn't know much about Kenny. I just kind of sat back and watched things. But what I saw and what I watched was a young man going from warrior to warrior with the ones with the injuries and talking to them and encouraging them and telling them what a great climb this was going to be. I had no idea he was going to climb to the top with them. And he was going to support them all the way up. And I've changed. I haven't changed. I've added a true friend to my life, someone that is a hero to me. He has recently published his book. You've seen it on the tables. It's called Get It On, What It Means to Lead the Way. He's going to talk to us a little bit about that. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please help me welcome Mr. Kenny Thomas?
That was the best intro I've ever had. That was great. You know what he didn't tell you is about 1,000 yards from the top of Mount Rainier, I was looking at my feet, and I was walking along. Hey, if there's someone that's smarter than me, maybe they were in the Navy or the Air Force, could you come here and help me with this microphone? Maybe turn it on. We're about 1,000 feet from the top of the mountain, and I was getting angry at the guide because I was like, she's going way too fast. And I looked at my feet, and I was going like this. And the rope that's tethered us all together is really taut, and it's because I'm the guy that's dragging in this. Thanks, my friend. You look great. This guy comes back and goes, "Come on, Kenny, you can do it." And he had one leg. I was like, come here. And so he helped me up the mountain. And so I think we all kind of helped each other up there. Thank you, man. We all helped each other up that mountain. All right, so are we good? That's good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to Nanette, and thank you to Evelyn for coming to the airport today and getting me and making it all possible. And thank you to Mike over at Camp Patriot for helping me. Camp Patriot's the group that brought those guys and climbs them up mountains and sends them out to the wilderness and gets them back into society. And we're very, very proud of what they do, and I'm very proud to be associated with them. But before I get going, I want you to know now, I don't take a second of this for granted. This is a privilege. It's an honor, especially in a group like this tonight, which is a group of leaders and community folks that are doing big things out there and making a difference. This is like preaching to the choir. It's an honor because I'm going to tell you some stories. And the stories I get to tell you are about the guys that are on my left and on my right. And I know by the grace of God, the only reason I'm still around is because of those people that he put with me. So it's always my privilege that anyone, I can't believe that I get to get on a plane and fly over to Washington and tell a story and then turn around and head back home. And this is what I get to do. So I love it. I'm a little different than most speakers that you would see, like a keynote. They have these big screens, and they asked me when I got here if I had any PowerPoint or anything like that, like a presentation. I don't really have anything like that. Like, had I been in the Air Force, I would have brought a PowerPoint presentation. But I was in the Army, man, and we didn't have, first of all, we didn't have the budget for it, and secondly, special operations guys, they don't like having that little laser pointer. They get nervous when a red dot lands on your chest. So we never get past. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you stories, and I want to go back 1 second. Let's just for the folks who have served in the military, for my veterans, just raise your hand, hold them for a second, because I want to get a count in this room. Thank you for your service. Thank you. That's a little over 20 in a room full of about, what do we got, 250, 300 folks? This is what this looks like. That's really only like about 10% of the room, but that's a huge number for most audiences that I get to speak to. Most times you only get about 5 or 6 folks who raise their hands, so y'all have something going on out here in Washington, but thank you for your service. If you know any of those folks, the veterans that raised their hand, watch them. They're going to laugh at the same places I laugh, and it's going to be personal for them in the exact same places it's personal for me, because they could tell you the same story. It doesn't matter whether it was your grandpa's in World War II or Korea, or your father's in Vietnam, or our brothers, my best friends that are over in Afghanistan and have all served in Iraq. When they come home and you sit down and say, hey, where'd you do? What was your deal? What was your story? They will do like I will do, and they will talk about the people on their left and their right. Now, what I hope that you get from this, I'm going to talk a little bit. You'll hear me say, I'm going to have some key points. My first point is going to be planning. You're going to hear me talk about planning. If you fail to plan, you can plan on failing. I'm going to talk about training. Train as you fight. Fight as you train. But mostly what I'm going to talk about tonight is you. And that's leadership. Leaders in this room. You people... This room gets it, because you got a lot of people running around here with roses on their lapels, and they've all done something that was worthy of recognition. You're community leaders. You're in these civic-minded groups that go out there and make a difference. That's great. But what I want to remind you of when you walk out of this room is just remember now how important you are, because you are a leader, and there's somebody on your left and there's somebody on your right, and that person's counting on you. And if you don't deliver, well then, who's gonna? So that's what I want you to walk out of here. Remember how important you are. And I'm going to do it by telling stories. And the stories aren't about colonels. And the stories aren't about generals. Because you will not ever find any single military manual that will ever tell you that leadership is about the rank on your collar, or the pay grade, or what you're bringing in, or how much you get, how long you've been with the company. It's about the examples that you set. How are you influencing people? Who are you following? Who are you leading? What are you teaching them? What example are you setting? That's what leadership's about. So the stories I tell you are about young guys, privates, young specialists, young E5s, and the lessons that I learned from those folks was that has nothing to do with the rank, man. It's the example you set. An example they set saved a lot of lives. So our story started on a day off. It was a day off from training. We were in Mogadishu, Somalia. We had been in country for about 3 months. 3 months in this town, we had been running missions nonstop. If we weren't running missions, we were out in the sand dunes training constantly. We had done about 44-something raids, kicking indoors. We weren't there to be part of the peacekeeping force. We weren't there to be part of the feed the hungry people. We were there to kick in a door and find a bad guy. We had been slowly eating away at his echelon of his tier of people. By about 44 missions into it, we were getting pretty tired of being in this town. We still hadn't gotten the guy, and finally, it was a Sunday afternoon. Take the day off. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen. Y'all do what you want to do. Some guys are playing volleyball. I was actually writing a letter home to my mom, and she still has the front end of the letter, and it started out as it said, "Dear Mom," and I was lying to her. "You would love it here in sunny Mogadishu," because Mom doesn't want to know what's happening in sunny Mogadishu. She wants to know, are you getting fed? Are you getting your mail? Are you making a difference? Yes, ma'am, the people here love us. And this is what I'm writing her. And as I'm writing the letter, the guy walks out of the airplane hangar, and he just yells it out. "Hey, get it on!" And the building was about as big as this room right here. So get it on meant time to gear it up. Just like exactly like a firefighter or a police officer gets the call. You drop what you're doing, and you got to run in and make that change from a day off into your costume, and you become Superman. You start putting on the body armor. You start getting on your gear. And this is happening all over the airplane hangar. So it's very simple. The process is, we've done it hundreds of times, and it's not you just run and grab your gear and sprint out to the helicopters. You have to stop, line up in front of your gear. It may seem elementary, but there's a point to this. Don't skip the steps. Don't get complacent. Just because and this is what complacency sounds like. We've always done it this way, and it's always worked out this way, and I don't know why this step was there. I'm perfectly fine doing it the way I've been doing it. Thank you very much. Well, complacency is going to cost you issues. So what we would do is double check each other. That was the whole point. Stand in front of the gear, because no piece of gear operates without somebody on it helping you. You can't do anything one job by yourself. If the machine gunner has the job of machine gunning, he has to carry the rounds. The 800 rounds are really heavy. He can't carry them all by himself. So we have to cross-load. The medic, he can't carry the kit and all the stuff that he needs to save you. So you have to carry some of his stuff for him. And we're all cross-loading, and that's what's happening all over the airplane hangar. My squad is lined up. We're double-checking these guys. A squad, I guess in the infantry, a squad is usually 10 guys. That's about a normal-sized squad. 8 to 10 men would be about normal. The Ranger regiments was shorthanded, and we're still shorthanded. So, you know, if you're thinking about joining up, we need some people. And that would be where to send them. We only had 5 guys in my squad, and since that's what this story's about, I'm going to introduce you to my 5 guys. So the first guy was Doug. Doug Boren was the squad leader. Doug was an E5, meaning he was a sergeant with 3 stripes on his shoulder. I, too, was a sergeant with 3 stripes on my shoulder. In fact, Doug and I had pinned on our stripes at the exact same ceremony. We were the exact same rank, but Doug was officially the squad leader, and I never quite understood that one. I remember asking my platoon sergeant, I was like, hey, Sergeant Watson, how come Sergeant Bourne here gets to be the squad leader? I'm the same rank. Why am I not the squad leader? And his answer, to this, still to this day, was, because he's from Texas. Apparently they outranked the rest of us. I don't know why that is. So Doug from Texas goes into the briefing room. He's going to get the mission. That leaves me with my team of men. Now, usually you have 2 teams, but we didn't have enough guys to have 2 teams. So just my one team. So my main guy in that team was Melvin DeJesus. DeJesus was a specialist in E4. He had been in the Rangers for about a year now. He had come back from Ranger school, meaning he had earned his Ranger tab. And that's a tough, very grueling leadership course. And so now it's his turn to become a team leader. We're going to start grooming him up. DeJesus grew up in the streets of Puerto Rico. He was a tough, street hard kid. And we used to joke with the guy, but I'm telling you, he was the only reason DeJesus was in the Army was because the judge gave him that option. Right? Melvin DeJesus, you can go to the Army or you can go to jail, my friend. I would take the Army. You know, and he was a tough guy. You know, like, because you know he grew up in the streets, and everybody knows tough guy. Like, you can't show tough guy anything because tough guy's seen it all. Like, I walk into these rooms, I can stand up here on the stage right now and start pointing out tough guys because then they're all like, what's this guy going to tell me that I need to know? Like, I can see it. And DeJesus was the exact same way when we first started working with him because he'd seen it all. I remember I was doing a block of instruction. Man, this is a Carl Gustav rocket launcher, and it can penetrate 6 inches of armored steel. Are there any questions? And DeJesus over like, nah, man, in Puerto Rico, everybody had a rocket launcher. All right. So these are the kind of guys that you got fighting for us. So it's good that he was on our side. The middle guy was Eric Saransky, good solid kid from the Midwest. He had done a couple years of community college, came in. He had been in the Ranger Regiment for about 8 months. We had not sent him to Ranger School yet, but he was getting close to being ready. I liked having Saransky on my team. He would be what y'all call a good team player, a great soldier, because he was easy to work with. You tell him what you needed done, how fast, how far, how high do I got to jump. You just gave him the tasks and the conditions and the standards, and he made it happen, and it made us all look good. But that was easy. Good job, Saransky. See how good our squad is? I'm a good guy. I'm a good, strong leader. That brings me to David Floyd. Floyd was our newest guy. He'd only been in maybe about 7 or 8 months. We had him in the regiment, and he still wasn't quite up to speed yet. Now, he had made it into the regiment, which is not an easy place to get to. They got to get through basic, AIT, airborne school, then this long program called RASP, which is a 3-month weed-out, grueling course. And then you make it in the regiment, and you got to spend almost a year there as a private, which is it's tough. It's a tough place. And Floyd wasn't, whereas Saransky was capable and very smart and very fast and strong, and DeJesus had probably seen it all. And Floyd just, he wasn't. You know, he was a little bit slower. He was a little bit weaker. You had to take extra time with Floyd. And it was a pain in my... I just didn't want to have to do it because as a young leader, My idea of setting the example for others to follow was to just show them, hey, watch how good I am. I can shoot, move, and communicate, and you better keep up with me. Watch this. And if you don't keep up with me, I have no use for you, and I would just try and make Floyd quit. Now, I don't know why we do this, but we've been doing it since we were kids. If someone's not quite as fast as us, as strong as us, they're not going to the same church as us, they're not holding themselves to the standards, they're not staying as late at work as we think that they are, they're not holding themselves to the standards that we hold ourselves to, and I don't really have time to deal with this because I got my own problems to worry about, and it's hard enough over here, maybe that guy will just quit. And that we just start putting distance in between ourselves and somebody who we don't think we need to be associated with. I don't know why we do it, but we do it. And as people who set the example for others to follow, leaving someone behind because you don't think they're as good as you are is the wrong answer, especially if they want to be there. Okay? What we had to do was come back and hold Floyd to these high standards. And I didn't want to have to do it because I get it, y'all. I get the reality of the situation. It takes time and it takes effort. But the best lessons are the hard lessons learned. And I learned it the hard way because it happened one time. We were out there doing a check the block. We were out in Fort Benning, Georgia. We had to go do a road march one day. Meet the standard. The standard is 12 miles in 3 hours with 50 pounds on your back. You guys can all in this room probably walk 12 miles in 3 hours. Most of you can. It just hurts. You know, your feet ache, your back aches. You got the 50 pounds on you. Your knees start hurting. You start rubbing raw. You don't want to have to do it. So Doug and I, we looked at it, the squad. We figured it's easy. Who can't do this? Because it's just the standard. Sometimes when you know how to do something, everything's easy. But if you don't know how to do it or you can't get it done, it's not always easy. But we didn't see that. And we looked at our squad and we got complacent. We looked at them and we said, you know what, you guys do it at your own pace and we'll meet you back at the finish line. So Doug and I ran it. At 3 hours and 3 minutes, Floyd had not come across the finish line. He was still coming down the road. 3 minutes late. Floyd, you're late. Why are you late? Now people, it's not that they're giving you bad excuses. People will have very rational reasons for not meeting the standard. People will tell you very legitimate excuses as to why they didn't get done what you needed them to get done. And Floyd, why are you late? I was tired. Well, because I knew what was coming next. Doug and I, we didn't even bother yelling. We just started walking back towards the barracks. And we walked straight up to Sergeant Watson's office. We knocked on the door and we did this. And he goes, you two, get down. We're already down, Sergeant. Yeah, that's okay. That's it. Like, why didn't that young man pass the road march? Why didn't that young man meet the standard? It's a very simple standard. Why didn't he meet it? What's wrong with you two? Like, he didn't call us into his office to tell us, you guys are studs. I'm so lucky to have you on my platoon. I can't believe you ran 12 miles in 2 hours. Wow. What he cared about was that every single person in his platoon met the high standards, because he knew something that we hadn't learned yet as young guys in charge. We hadn't learned to be leaders yet. We were still just being in charge of people. And what he was trying to teach us was this. David Floyd was the single most important piece of the entire platoon. Every life hinged upon that young man. Why? Because he had a job to do, and we needed that job to get done. And as good as you are, you can't do it all. David Floyd was a machine gunner in our platoon. If he wasn't the best machine gunner he could be, that meant the squad's a little bit weak. And if the squad's a little weak, that platoon's going to be crippled. And if the platoon's crippled, your mission's going to be doomed. Everybody already knows how tough it is to succeed with everybody doing the best they can and everybody firing on all cylinders. But you go out there thinking that you're going to pick up the slack for this guy because you don't want to deal and do the hard work of holding him to a high standard, and that's a tough conversation to have. You know, I'll just pick it up. You can't. You need him. And the bottom line is this, you're as good as your weakest link. And it's a lesson, and it's a true lesson. You're as good as your weakest link. And we got to lift people up and hold them to the high standards so that when the day comes and they yell, get it on, you know David Floyd's going to be ready because he has been held to the standards. Because within 2 hours of him missing that road march that standard, guess who had to go out there and walk that thing again, 12 miles again, with blisters on his feet and aching back? Because if he's going to stay, he's got to meet the standard is the standard. It would be very easy for us to say, okay, Floyd, look here. It was only 3 minutes. So next time, don't make sure that you're on time. And here's a participation ribbon. I hope you feel good about yourself. David Floyd had to go walk that thing again. And so did Saransky, so did Sergeant Thomas, so did Sergeant Bourne, so did the entire platoon, because we had to learn a lesson. David Floyd did not fail that road march. We failed him because we left him behind. He was perfectly capable of making that thing in 3 hours if he had somebody to lift him and motivate him and push him and coach him and mentor him. So we never made that mistake again. And Floyd also learned that people are counting on him. And it's not, he can't just quit. He can't just fall out and fall back and you guys save yourselves. People were counting on him. And he, from that day on, decided he was going to try and do his best to keep up. So the day came, we're getting called into combat. We're all getting our gear on. Sergeant Watson and Doug come out of the briefing room, and they've got a photograph. And it's an aerial photograph. It's about this big, and it's a picture of downtown Mogadishu, Somalia. And in the middle of it is a target building, and they have circled it with red ink. And Sergeant Watson throws us down. He goes, all right, gather around. He goes, this right here is the target building. This is the corner of the building we're going to be roping in on. Are there any questions? That was it. There's the building, and there's your corner. You got any questions? Now look, please don't mistake that time in the huddle, that minimal time being poorly prepared. No, we're not winging it. You don't get out there on the playing field. Your coach is going to tell you this. You practice like you play, man. You don't get out there and just wing it. That comes from constant preparation, constant planning. That's the first thing we're going to talk about, planning. You got to make a plan. Now, the plan's going to change. We all know that. As soon as the first bullet goes downrange, the plan's going to change. But you got to make a plan, because the plan's a lot more than you think it is. It's also, where do we want to go? What do we want to be? How do we want to get there? What are our implied tasks? What are our specified tasks? What are we going to do if this happens? Well, I never thought of that. Well, you better come up with a contingency plan to that. Well, what are we going to do if this happens? That's another good thing. You better start figuring that one out. So we make up this plan. And the toughest thing for us out here in the real world is make a decision. Decide on the plan. Once we decide on what we're going to do, okay, now we can start practicing. Now we can, and I use this term, train as you fight. And then you will fight as you train. If you don't train hard, you won't fight hard. Coaches, practice like you play. I don't want to lose anybody in this room and say, well, Kenny, I don't train anymore. Training, yeah, but you call it what you want to call it. Call it practice, call it rehearsal, call it self-help, group therapy, call it Bible study, call it whatever it is you want to do where you're improving your skill set, and then you're a better example for others to follow. It's just train as you fight. You're only going to be as good as you prepared yourself to be, and the people around you are only going to be as strong as you work together. Work hard at it. Work very hard at it. Hold yourself to a high standard. Planning and training. Then the third key element to mission success and mission failure is you. You're the leadership. Leadership. General Garrison has a job to do. Colonel McKnight has a job to do. Captain Steele has a job to do. Lieutenant DiDamaso has a job. The platoon sergeant has a job. David Floyd. David Floyd now is in charge of nobody, but he's in charge of himself. And if he's leading himself by an example, which others can follow, and he's setting the example for others to follow, then we know we can count on him. Everybody has a job. The execution of the mission hinges upon the leadership, and that would just be you, going out there and doing the right thing. So all this is coming together, all over the airplane hangar. Basically, we go running out to the helicopters. I'm just going to give you, because usually I go into a long mission brief on this, but I'm just going to keep it really quick for you. Pretend this is north, all right? If this is north, that would be east. And if that's east, that's west. So north, east, west, and south. Basically, the helicopters fly out over the Indian Ocean to the east. They come out into the desert, into the south, into no man's land. And then we come flying out here in the desert, and we're looking back towards the city of Mogadishu. And then we come in from the north, and we're banking in. We're going to head straight in. Helicopters break off into 2 rows. The first lead birds on these 2 rows. Picture the building in the middle of the city over here, and there's a street there and a street there, just like a normal downtown. Birds are going down both streets. First one's in the Little Birds. Little Birds are those 2-manned, bubbled helicopters that you've seen. They don't have back seats. They just have skids on the outside. A lot of news stations use those sometimes. We called them Little Birds because, they were little, but they were highly maneuverable. And on the outsides of these skids, we would put benches, and basically the Delta Force guys, which were the door kickers, they could sit on the bench like this, just 2 of them side by side. And the Little Bird, I'm telling you, if they could open up the door big enough for those guys, they could fly through this building. They're amazing pilots, and they can put it on the rooftop, at the front door. So then when they land, all the Delta guy does is jump off, and they're in. So it's a very quick and efficient way to insert into the building. Right behind them come the Rangers, and we're coming in on Black Hawk helicopters, and we're going to rope in on corner number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to put a big circle around the building, let them clear the building from the top down. We'll get the bad guys, and then we'll all extract and go home. Coming in at 3:30 in the afternoon. The bad thing about coming in at 3:30 in the afternoon is what? Broad daylight. There you go. And see, if people are going to be shooting at you, that's not preferred. You would rather it be nighttime because then they can't see you as good. And people are shooting at you, you don't really want them to see you. So the daytime was not preferred because this was a bad part of town. We knew they were going to be shooting when we got there, but we don't get to pick and choose the ideal situations to go do our job. So coming in the daytime. I have 2 jobs. We're coming in on bird number 3. My squad's packed in the left side of this Black Hawk. There's another squad packed in the right side of the Black Hawk. And basically, my first job is this. Identify the target building. And I'm thinking this is going to be easy because all I have to do is look for a building that's circled with red ink. Remember now, nothing goes according to plan. Everything always changes. But you can adapt. And the reason I couldn't see anything was because it wasn't nighttime. And I know that doesn't make sense, but we own the night. We have night vision, and they're sparkling the building. They're putting infrared strobe lights on the building at night, and it's very simple. I just look out the thing and go, there's a target building. I would concur with the crew chief. And every time the crew chief would look at me and go, thanks, Captain Obvious, like I saw that an hour ago. But it's daytime, man, and the 2 of us can't see anything because dirt and dust is kicking and swirling. Y'all had a little bit of a dust storm today. Multiply that by 10, man. That's what's going on. I'm sure you've seen it. You can't see what's going on. And picture that in a helicopter up above a building trying to figure out if that's the building you need to be at. And I'm looking out the windshield. I'm like, I can't see anything. And the 2 pilots are talking to each other. So I grabbed the headset to hear what they're saying because surely they know where we're going. Chief Wood says to Chief Fuller, can you see anything? And Chief Fuller says, I can't see squat. Well, I never had to doubt them, which is strange. I was calmly confident that Chief Wood would put us where we needed to be. Why? Because he always did it. And now this isn't me being complacent, well, it's always worked out. This man had earned my trust. He had earned my trust by countless times of doing it tough, realistic training and missions, time after time after time, of putting us on the money because that was what he had to do. And he understood. He was the single most important piece of that entire puzzle. If he didn't put us on the money, that meant we were someplace else. And if we weren't on time, on target, that meant that corner of the building wasn't secure, and that meant that was the weakest link, and everybody in that building was in danger because we weren't on the money. So Chief Wood was not going to be the weakest link. When he flared the aircraft, now I knew we had to be somewhere near the target, and I looked out, I'm like, oh, there it is. I could see the little birds coming out of the dust. I could see the Delta operators kicking in the doors. I could see flashbangs going. I look across the street, I see the other 2 Black Hawks coming to a flare. Time to do my second job, which is kick the rope. So I know this seems simple, and it is. It's just kick the rope. Now here's the hard part. Make sure the rope goes to the ground. This is a very easy thing to overlook because you're thinking, of course it will go to the ground. And we have some climbers in the audience. You're like, of course you want enough rope to get you to the ground. Because when I get to be in charge of the stupid math problems that we were taught when we were in algebra, I'm going to change them all. Because that whole thing like, hey, if a train leaves Spokane leaving for Seattle, like when do they collide? Like, who cares? Let me tell you this. If you kick a 90-foot rope out of a helicopter that's hovering at 120 feet off of the ground, what happens when you get to the end of the rope? You're at the end of your rope. That's a bad landing. Man, and it may seem obvious, but helicopters aren't exact sciences, and there's a lot of wind, and those things are doing this type of thing, so make sure the rope's on the ground. When you kick the rope, we go. Now, this is the easy part. Ropes are just there. This fast roping is not rappelling. So like climbing, rappelling, you're harnessed in, you're tied in, you're safetied in. It's that, it's like outward bound, where there are people up there and they're like, you can do it. And you're like, okay, 1, 2, whee, Fast roping is just, you lean and you grab it, and then at 9.8 meters per second squared, you go out that bird because gravity doesn't care what rank you are. It's going to grab you right to the ground. And the rope is just there to help you get to the, how hard do you want to hit the ground? If you want to get down fast, don't even grab the rope because you'll go quick. But that's what the whole thing's for. So everybody's going, shoot, shoot, shoot. And the reason that we're roping is because the Blackhawks are too big to fit into the streets. So this is why we're coming in. This is happening on all four corners. The mission is almost completed, even by the time they've already started clearing the building, because I can hear the gunfire. I'm the last guy going out of my bird, and I can hear it, bam, 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 bam. I look at the crew chief, and he's yelling at me, and I don't know what he's saying, and he's pointing at his helmet. And Ned Norton was my crew chief's name. Ned had this sticker that he had put on his helmet that said, "No fear." And it was red, white, and blue, and he was all proud of this sticker, and he's looking at me going, "No fear!" And I went, "What?" And he's like, "No fear!" And the last thing I said to him as I disappeared was like, "Screw you!" Because I always thought it was funny that Ned would tell you, "No fear," and then fly away, right? Join the Air Force. That's awesome. And so when we hit the ground, there was some gunfire going off, and the building's getting cleared. And honestly, and I know that this sounds rather nonchalant and like I'm bragging, it wasn't that bad. And it wasn't that bad. Like nowadays, if I was driving to the airport and someone was shooting at me, I would make a big deal about it. I'd be like, "Whoa, just some dude shot at me today." But the reason it wasn't that big of a deal back then, it was because they were missing. And that's pretty much what, people shoot at you and they miss, it's like they never shot at you at all. So there's no real reason to get upset about it. So, you're just going to cause yourself undue stress. So we're going about our mission. Everything seems to be okay. We get 12 bad guys that were in this building, and 3 of them were HVT. So we were very, very happy. We had scored, got these high-valued target folks. We brought them up, tied them up, put the flex cuffs on them. There were trucks down here waiting. The trucks drive up, put the bad guys on the trucks, and the trucks drive away. That leaves about 80 of us. 80 of us are on the target building now, waiting for a ride to go home. Mission was a success. Raid number 45, 7th one where we air assaulted in on helicopters. Hua, hua, hua. We're all giving each other the thumbs up, and just like that, remember now, it had been a day off from training. We weren't supposed to be working. First helicopter gets shot down, and we all watched it happen. And I can tell you exactly what we were thinking, because y'all have felt it too. You felt the exact same feelings. If you've ever even been in a car wreck, or the folks last year in Boston when they turn on the TV and people are getting blown up, or you watch the news and there's towns getting leveled in Oklahoma, or kids are getting shot in a high school, and you're looking at the screen going, and especially if it's happening in your community or it's happening to you, you go, I can't believe that's happening. And that's what we were all thinking. I can't believe this. Because that's the 160th. They're the Special Operations Air Regiment. They're the Captain Kirks of Army Aviation. They're not supposed to get shot down. And you don't have to believe it. And you don't have to be happy about it. And I'm not trying to be hard, y'all. I get it. Like, as a good neighbor, as a good Christian kid, like I've always been I will come and try and help you. Americans as a whole, I think, in a pinch, we will go help you. We will get to you. Sooner or later we can get it. But until we can get to you to help, what are you going to do about it? Now, the military makes the Army was very, very simple. We teach you in a crawl, walk, run type of fashion. So the first things we teach you are the simple steps. When something happens, there's only 2 things that you can do. It's very simple. You can do the right thing, or you can do the wrong thing. Do your damnedest to do the right thing. Don't do the wrong thing. And here's the catch now. We could spend a lifetime trying to figure out what is the right thing. How are you going to know what the right thing is? Unless somebody has taken the time to come back and lift you up and push you and hold you to a higher standard and have that uncomfortable conversation. Hey, we're counting on you, man. We need you. Why are you not living up to the expectations that we have of you? Why are you not living up to the expectations of yourself? Unless somebody's coached you, I defy you to tell me you got where you are right now by yourself. In fact, any one of those people out there with those roses on their lapel will tell you they did it by themselves. You got to have somebody that's helped you through it. And we all know someone. We know somebody who, at some point, parent, teacher, coach just gave up, didn't care about them anymore, or they didn't care enough about themselves, and they didn't get that training. And they didn't get what that high standard was, and they didn't get that moral compass and that true north. And then they went off path. Now, we all make mistakes now. We all make mistakes. But we get guided back because we know what's right. But if you don't know what's right, because nobody ever taught it to you, you will continue to do the wrong thing, and you will eventually go off of a cliff, and there will be no way back for you. But in this case, as crazy as the situation was, we knew exactly what had to happen because we made a plan for it. In the unlikely event that a helicopter gets shot down, we will go rescue the crew. What if they're not alive? Well, we'll figure that out when we get there, but we're going to get to them right now. And fortunately, the bird crashed close enough that we could all move on foot. So remember now, if I told you this is northeast, 3 blocks this way to the east, to the right, and then a left turn north. So all of us are on the crash, or the target building over here, and the 80 of us are going to run down the streets and take a left towards the crash. Now, right before we got ready to roll, my buddy Doug, who was a squad leader, Doug gets hit, and he's bleeding pretty bad, and he's getting worked on by the medic. And Sergeant Watson goes and checks on him, and a couple minutes, comes back to me and goes, "Hey, Bourne's been hit. You're in charge." I go, "Well, what happened to him, Sergeant?" He said, "He's been hit, and you're in charge." And I saw Doug moving down the road with the medics working on him. And I'm thinking they're going to run him down to this next block, and that one of the vehicles that had just driven away with the prisoners was going to come back and get Doug. And I'm like, "Well, are we going to medevac him? Like, what's going to happen to him?" Now, these are all very legitimate questions I'm asking, but now's not the time. "Sergeant Thomas, you're in charge." He had to say it 3 times to me before I got it. I'm like, "Oh, there's people counting on you, and you got a job to do right now, and that's take charge of the situation." I didn't have to be happy about it. And most of the time, y'all, as leaders and civic community group folks that are doing out do-gooders, you guys know, most of the time that it lands squarely on your shoulders, you didn't ask for that responsibility. You know, it's tough sometimes. And I knew what I had to do. I took the radio, I clipped it on my hip. "All right, guys, I'm the squad leader. DeJesus, that makes you the team leader." DeJesus over there like, "Roger, son, do you know in Puerto Rico everyone was a team leader?" "All right, dude. Glad you're on my side, man." "Saransky, Roger, son, you take care of Floyd." "Gotcha. Floyd, you take care of Saransky. Follow me. We got to move." Now, when we took off and we moved down and made this left-hand turn towards the crash site, that's when everything got bogged down. So picture it this way. Picture the bird crashed about 2 blocks up, and then the 80 of us, plus the 15 men who were on the rescue helicopter that roped in immediately. 4 of those guys got shot going in just to help that crash site. So they've got a perimeter around the bird. The 80 of us are all stacking in, pushing in for about 2 blocks. And my guys are the last ones around the turn, and I just pushed them back this way, and we pulled security back as best we could. Now, up until that point, it felt like training. And we even, before they even made that movie, we called that moment, it was Hollywood, because I'd never seen anything like it other than the movies. There were so many rounds. I hadn't even done a live fire that heavy in training. There were so many rounds going down the street, and there were so many tracers crisscrossing, and there were birds doing gun runs, and in your peripheral, you could see people running through alleys and darting out of windows, and you could see rifles come around corners, and it was happening very fast, but then again, it was kind of happening in slow motion. It was odd, because you're so good at making these decisions. Now, the tough part of anybody that's been in any kind of urban situation is, who's the bad guy? Because they didn't have any problem putting themselves behind women and children and firing out from behind a kid. They didn't have any problem sending a kid out into the street to tell them where you were. And then the guy with the rocket launcher would jump out and shoot it right at you because he knew you're not going to shoot at that kid. And so it was still training though. Shoot, move, communicate. It was training up until a point. And there's a point where it becomes a different world. It becomes a different reality. And that reality is when all of a sudden people get hit and people get hurt and you start losing people and people start going down. I can train you. There's enough of us in this room that when we spend an afternoon, we could sit you down and teach you how to keep the human body alive. I can train you what to do when somebody gets shot. Because once again, crawl, walk, run. In its essence, and I'm sure there's some doctors in here and they're gonna laugh at how simple it is, but it's very simple to keep the body alive. If you can control the blood loss and you can control the airways, you can keep the body alive. That's it. How you do that now, that's countless hours of training. But we all knew how to do it. Here's what we can't teach you how to do. I can't teach you how to not care about it. I can't teach you to have no feelings. We're human. We're not machines. That's your buddy. And you care that he's hurting. You care that there's an enemy out there who's still shooting, and it might happen to you. You care that that's a guy that was crucial to your well-being, and now you got to plug that hole in the dam, and you got to figure out how you're going to keep the line together. Who's going to hold the line? And you start figuring all these things out, and it starts taking its toll. You start feeling this lump in your chest start coming up. And that lump, as it starts moving up, that's called panic. Don't let that happen. Because panic, y'all know what panic does. Panic makes you save yourself. Panic makes you go, run, fight, flee, whatever. And it would have been easy. Anybody could have panicked and just taken a breather, stepped out of the wall, fight, got behind a wall, and like, oh, man, I'm going to reload for a second. But nope, nobody did. Not a single person stepped out of that fight. Because they knew if they stepped out, what would that mean? They would leave somebody hanging on their left and their right. Now, the movies love to show that stuff, like that one guy who's always freaking out, and they come, I can't do it, I can't do it. Like, that doesn't happen in our military. Maybe in France or something, but it doesn't. It doesn't happen with our guys. We understand what it's about. Now, I want to pause for a second, just because if Camp Patriot is a good platform too for me to talk about this. Let's pause on this story for a second. When now you've been exposed to this reality, and you have human feelings. Most of us, when somebody gets hurt or something happens tough in your life, in your friends or your family and your community, we reach out and we embrace you. We put our arm around you. I'll show up and I'll say a prayer with you. I'll come and I'll help you. You know, we'll grieve with you. Well, at that point, you cannot do that. All you can do is try and keep him alive, move him to the side, and if he can't be kept alive, move him to the side and fight on. And then you take all that emotion that you're dealing with, and you just, I'll put it right here and I'll deal with it later. Now, obviously, when do you think that the later is that we deal with it? It's when you come home. And you're not under that stress. And the good life starts trying to make you relax a little bit. And so now all that stuff starts coming out of the back of your head, and it starts making its way back up in here, and these memories start going. And you start thinking, oh yeah. What about Casey? What about Pilla? What about Joyce? What about Ruiz? Like, man, those guys were twice the soldier as me, and they deserved to live. Yeah, they did. And then the enemy, that voice that we tend to listen to too much in our head starts going, yeah, well, you don't really deserve to live. At very least, you surely don't deserve to be happy. Don't be running around here acting all happy, because you made it, and that should be enough. And y'all listen to me. It took me 10 years to figure it out. 10 years. Some guys longer, some guys shorter. 10 years to figure what it was. It was guilt. This weird guilt. Like, why God did you let me out of there? Why did I survive it when other people didn't? And they should have. And what am I supposed to do with that? And I can tell you what that guilt will do. You'll come home and you're like, nobody's going to understand it. I don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear it. It's going to sound like I'm bragging. They don't get it. Then the real world doesn't get it. They don't understand your left and your right. What am I supposed to be? What's my purpose? Man, this place sucks. I wish I'd never gotten out. And then you can't understand why your wife is getting upset because the checkbook's not balanced. And you're like, no one's shooting at us. Like, you have no relativity to this world. It's a tough transition to make. Now, but the transition does get made because we as family, we as community, we as friends, people like Camp Patriot say, hey, we care about you. We get what you're going through. We know you've been wounded. We know that some scars you can't always see. And if we don't open up our arms to folks and welcome them back, and then you sit down and talk to them. Look here. Remember what your mom used to teach you? Hey, don't stare at them. Don't look at them. Like, don't you dare call any of those. You're going to see a lot of prosthetics. A lot of them. We have 30,000 blast wounds out there. 30,000. And those people have all done the hard work. Years of rehab. And they've learned that we got operators kicking indoors with a titanium steel leg right now. Don't tell me that they're handicapped. What they need is a sense of purpose. And they need people who just get it and understand that it takes a little bit of patience and that they're dealing with it right now. I just want to make you aware, and I could do a whole nother topic on that, but thank you for letting me pause on that, and so that you know, thank you to the guys from Camp Patriot what they're doing as well. So Let's go back to our story. Thanks, Michael. I'm probably all right out of time, aren't I, Evelyn? You're looking nervous. There's usually like an event planner, and they're back there doing this. I start laughing at them. So let's go back to our story. The first guy that I saw get hit was a Delta Force operator. His name was Earl. Earl Fillmore got shot right across the street from me, and his team leader was working on him, Hooten. And I said, Hooten, hang on, man, I'm going to get a medevac. And I go and grab the radio, and I get Sergeant Watson. They call for a medevac, and I come running back over. It took me 20 seconds. And I look over at Hooten. I'm like, hey, man, can we move him on foot? We got to get him. I think the birds are going to come for us. And he looks at me and just says, very matter of fact, he's like, no, man, he's dead. And I looked, and from here to there, I didn't have to check his pulse, didn't have to check his airways, didn't need, I didn't need any kind of instrument to tell me that guy wasn't alive anymore. And I don't, I don't come in here to preach, y'all. Preaching's not my gift. But I'm just going to tell you, the idea that there's a soul in the human body and that the soul goes someplace else when the body dies, it's for real, because it just, I don't know what it was. It wasn't Earl anymore. It didn't even look like him. It was like kind of looked like him, but like a wax figure. He's like the life was gone. That was the best way I know how to say it. And I also knew what my job had now become. And I bet if you could go back to like Gettysburg and talk to those boys that fought on the line, I bet you they'd tell you the same thing too. It's the same thing you see on all the Discovery Channel stuff. Like, hey, thanks for fighting for our freedom. Yeah, and I always shake people's hands in the airport, and I want to tell them, yeah, I wish that I could tell you that I was fighting for you and your freedom, but I wasn't. I wasn't fighting for the flag. I wasn't fighting for the glory of the Ranger Regiment. I wasn't even fighting for my family back home. I was fighting for that guy on my left and my guy on my right. That is not going to happen, and I got it. Like that's, and all of us at some point, you get it. You go, oh, well, if I die here, I die here. It becomes very matter of fact, because it just happen. It could happen to you, but I'm not going to let it happen to the people around me. And man, what a concept that is. Wouldn't you rather have somebody here on your left and somebody on your right that absolutely has your back, and you know that they have your back, and then they've got someone on their left and their right, and that you can concentrate on taking care of them and not have to worry about saving yourself? Like, we can try and save ourselves, and some of us do really well at it for an amount of time. Like single moms, like they amaze me what they pull off. They're trying to save themselves, save their kids, but at some point they're going to need some help too. We all need help. We all got to get through it. And and I'll tell you, tomorrow's Easter. Where I'm obviously I'm a fan of the scriptures. I think that's where I am in my faith. I'm starting to learn that, okay, if you take care of the people around you, you being taken care of is taken care of. Like, take care of those folks. And I turned around and I said, Saransky, you got to look after Floyd. Because Floyd's looking back over towards Earl's body. And what do you think he's thinking? He's thinking the same thing, because that's Earl Fillmore. He's a Delta Force guy. He was as good as it gets. Like, if it happened to him, it surely is going to happen to me. I said, hey, if you guys take care of each other, I can't be here. I got to move. I got to go down the line. And I had to let him go. And I'm like, listen to DeJesus. He knows he's the team leader. He knows what he's doing. And DeJesus at this point is speaking some sort of crazy language. It was like Spanglish. Man with a weapon. Hey, yeah, shoot. I'm like, whatever he just said, do that. But if you don't know what he said, it's very simple. Do what you know is right. Because I know you know what's right. And I had to do this. Which, if all the parents in the room, you could come up here and give a whole talk on it. I had to let go. And I had to move away and make sure and know that they were going to be taken care of, because I had taught them as best I knew how to do it. You can't go off to college with her. You can't get in the car with her when she goes away to drive and she's 16 and she's doing this number here. You can't. You couldn't go to kindergarten with her either. But up until that point, what could you do? You could do everything that you can do. That's what you can do. Everything. Train as you fight as you train. Give them that compass. Give them that, so that when their choices are being made and they're being called upon to set an example, what example are they going to set? Well, at least you've given them the skill set to make that right choice. Now, we had to fight through that whole night, man. And I'm greatly fast forwarding through this, but we fought. The pilot's body that was in the wreckage over here, it took us a long time to get his body free from the plate and the metal and all that stuff. And in the morning time, honestly, we had more wounded than we had fighting capable. Out of the 100 of us on the ground, 73 guys got wounded, 76, a couple of air crew guys got wounded, and 18 men died. I mean, there weren't many of us left that could keep fighting. We needed help. The 10th Mountain guys put on their body armor and they came for us. They weren't our buddies. Man, in fact, they were a regular Army unit. We probably looked at them like we didn't really want to deal with them. But they came for us. All those Rangers that had been on the vehicles and the Delta guys that had driven away and the day before with the prisoners, they came back. Man, when Jeff Struker, my friend, got to me in his Humvee, I ran over to go see where he was. It was about 4 in the morning. It hadn't even gotten daylight. And I ran over to go look at him. And I said, man, are you all right? He was all bloodied up. His driver was bloodied up. His gunner was bloodied up. The back of his vehicle was a wreck. None of the tires were inflated. There were holes in the side of the vehicle. And in the back of his vehicle, he had a kid. And he was this kid. He was in clean uniform. I'm like, man, who is that? And I looked, and it was our cook. I was like, dude, what are you doing here? And he looked at me and said, hey, Sergeant, there wasn't anybody left. I go, what? Because there ain't nobody left. And I started looking up and down the line. I realized it was a hodgepodge of people that had come out to save us. Nobody told that kid that he had to go out there and put a uniform on and save us. It would have been easy for him. That's not my job. Man, this is my favorite one. Somebody ought to do something about that. Like, that's my, he took a look around and realized people were counting on him. He had to get out there and help. And on that run out of the city, we put all the wounded guys on the trucks, and the trucks drove away, and that left 30 of us. And we ran. That was it. There were no more helicopters. We didn't know it. 4 helicopters got shot down already. Didn't know it. There was another crash site in the middle of the city over there, and I don't even have the time to tell you about Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart. 2 men that put their lives on the line. They were the only people in between. I'm telling you all the truth. Look, 200. I've seen the video feed. 200 people with weapons were running for that other crash site. Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart knew full and well what they were up against, and they went in anyway. Because they knew, if we don't go in there, who's gonna? Somebody else. And that's the thing, man. Most of the time when it comes down to being called upon to do something, it's usually happening within our community, within our little circle of influence. It's very rarely you're getting asked specifically to do something about something that's happening across the globe. It's happening here. And if you don't do it, who's gonna? Someone else? Well, who's the someone else? It's the person on your left. Or it's the person on your right. You got to get it done. Those guys died trying to save that crash. They were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, saving one guy who was still alive. They probably didn't know his name, but Mike Durant knows their names. I guarantee it. And when I tell you it's a privilege, I mean it. Because, man, if I don't tell their story, who's gonna? Did you know who Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart were? I do. They're amazing guys. And on that run, when we were running out of the city in the morning, let me tell you another guy that was every bit as extraordinary as those 2 men, David Floyd. We had all started bunching up at this corner of the building because some guys were doing the right thing and some guys were doing the wrong thing. It's very easy. The research is very clear on this, y'all. When we start getting emotional and we start getting over the top with the sense of urgency, our ability to see the bigger picture and do the right thing starts going like this. Starts tunnel visioning. And little things, it's devils in the details. It's the little things that we do time and time again that we take for granted, that we just start skipping. And for us, it was, when you cross the street, what's the first thing they teach you? The left side of the room's rocking tonight. Come on, y'all. I'm going to give you one more later on. You're going to be able to... Look both ways. This is good combat advice, okay? When someone's shooting at you, look both ways down a street. And we did it by taking care of each other. One guy's on this side of the street, one guy's on this side of the street, and we leapfrog across. Got you covered, got you covered. Well, what started happening with us 30 of us running out of the city is we got a case of the Screw-Its. Man, this train's moving, and it's out of control, and it's gone so far beyond it, I'm just going to start skipping things. And this whole leapfrogging doesn't make any sense because it's only going to take me a half a second to jump across the alley, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I got you covered. But I didn't really got him covered because I wasn't worried about myself. And people started bunching up, and it was David Floyd. Sergeant Thomas, look out. Bam, bam, bam. And that young man had his head on a swivel, and he saw two guys step out of an alleyway with big RPG rocket launchers aimed right at us. There was a squad leader, there was a platoon sergeant, there was a Delta Force sergeant major, and there was a captain in that group. David Floyd was the least among us, so we would have thought. and David Floyd saved every one of us. I'm so glad that that young man held himself to a high standard. And I'm so glad that that young man made a choice to lead and do the right thing. This is the whole point of that story, is leadership's a choice. You can know what the right thing is, and you can do great at everything. And in some one moment, you don't, because you make the choice not to. We all made a choice not to lead and do the right thing, but Floyd did. I'm also very glad that we held him to a high standard. Because do you know why he made that right choice? Because we taught him how to do it. We gave him the opportunity. We gave him his true north. And he understood how important he was, and he held himself to that standard. And he saved us all. It's easy for us to get up, man, especially in a night like this where you're recognizing individuals. If it's in your script, I don't want to hear it. Because people like to do this. They like to say, this is the story of an ordinary individual, just like you, who's done an extraordinary deed. It sounds great, but make no mistake, David Floyd was not an ordinary individual. Gary and Randy, they weren't ordinary individuals. It would be easy. Well, sure, of course they're extraordinary guys. They got a medal. It's not the medal. It's not. It's not the medal. It's not the award. It's not the plaque. It's not the rose on your lapel. That's not what makes you extraordinary, and you know this. It's every single day holding yourself to a high standard, walking out the door and going, who's counting on me? All right, somebody is, because I do not want to get on that plane. I do not want to go into that office. I do not want to get in this vehicle. I do not want to go in here and do this today. But people are counting on me. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it as good as I can. That's every day. That's extraordinary, because I'm telling you, most people don't do it. They take the easy out. But you are not that person. You are not. Remember what I told you? The whole point of this was I want to start you are a leader, and if you start seeing yourself as leaders, you'll live up to it. You're extraordinary. First and foremost, that's the good news. You have everything you need. You've got skill sets and weapon systems and training and experience and wisdom, and you have a gift. You've been given all kinds of gifts. First and foremost, you were created in the image of God, which makes you kind of amazing. And then secondly, you're one of a kind. I think this is water. I'm not sure. Never leave a drink on the stage. Whoever was that person who's on the podium, never leave a drink on the stage, because we're all trying to figure out whether we should drink it or not. Look, I don't make this stuff up, man. You can go, it's 2000s of years ago since the beginning of people, and they started recording it. Every one of y'all have a gift. And it's not so much different than what, hey, if you have the gift to sing, you should sing. If you have the gift to teach, you should teach. Thank you so much. If you have the gift to, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. My favorite one, if you look in the book of Romans, is this whole list of all these gifts we've been given. If you've been given the gift to lead, it says lead well. Well, every one of y'all been given that gift now, haven't you? Because all you got to do is set the example for others to follow. It's easy. That's all you got to do. And I know it gets hard. It's supposed to be hard. Sometimes doing the right thing is called the burden. That's the burden of leadership. I get it. The Rangers have a creed. And the very first stanza of the creed, and we say it every day at 5 in the morning sometimes in the rain and the freezing cold before we start the day. The first stanza says it. Recognizing I volunteered as a Ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession. I volunteered, knowing it was going to be hard. Some days are harder than others, We get it. I don't know if y'all have a creed. Like if you, we could have like the Rotary. Does Rotary have a creed? What is it? Service above self. Servant leadership. Just perfect match. No wonder you guys brought me in. All right, if you need a creed outside of Rotary or Kiwanis or the guys with the funny hats. Got little funny cars in the parade and stuff. If you need a creed, I got a good one for you. It's on the Ranger Regiment walls, on the Delta Force walls, on the Navy SEAL walls, on the Special Operations Air Force guys. Every unit I've ever been in has it on. This is against the Old Testament. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was heading out on a mission. And I run down the hallway, and I saw it on this plaque, and I stopped, and I went, Isaiah 6:8 reads like this. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Who will go for us? Whom shall I send? And I answered, here am I, Lord, send me. And I went, here am I, send me, Isaiah. I bet that dude was a ranger. And I ran off. I don't get to do that anymore. I mean, it was easy for me to think that. Send me. Put me in, coach. That's what we do. I'll go do the job. God. Send me. That was easy. But I don't get to carry M4s anymore. I don't get to jump out of airplanes at 30,000 feet in the middle of the night. And I don't get to come home from a mission knowing that I've made a difference. When you wore the uniform and you wore the boots, making a difference comes issued. But when you come back, what do? How do you find your place? Well, I got a gift. I've been given a story. It took me 10 years to figure out the story wasn't a curse. I can sing a song. I've been given an audience. I have a gift of melody. These are things that I can use, and when I go out to use them, I use them and say, well, what do you have? What example are you saying? Let me tell you what the biggest gift that you have. If you ever think, well, Kenny, I don't sing. I don't really have a gift. Yeah, you do. Let me tell you the biggest gift you have. When you walk out those doors, you have somebody here and somebody here. You have a circle of people that you influence. I can't get to them. These community leaders here can't get to them, but you can. Who are you leading? Who are you following? What are you telling them? All right, I do sound like I'm preaching now. So I'm going to play this song because I saw somebody in the back of the room and they were doing that antsy walk, which usually means you're running out of time. So I'm going to play this song for you. This song that I'm fixing to do, Nanette told me that it would be perfect for y'all. Hey, you want to mute this channel real quick while I plug it in? Thanks. All right. It doesn't matter. When I do these USO tours, most of your money's made out on these tiny little forward operating bases, the FOBs out in the mountains by the Pakistani border. And you go out there and you run in with a bunch of other songwriters and you play some hits that we've all written. And you usually do about 2 songs. I'll do one fun song, makes everybody laugh, and then I'll play this one. Because what I just spent 47 minutes talking about, I can sum it up in a 3.5-minute song. I can tell you, the music just has a different way of reaching people. I don't know why it is. And when they, if you're going to be in Nashville right around Memorial Day weekend, come see me. I'm going to be on the Opry. And when I get on the Opry, I'm going to play this song for them. Because it's the same message that I've just told you, but a different way of telling it. I know these 3 people in this song. They all stepped up. They did something. They put service before themselves. They did something. They didn't want to have to do it. I promise you they didn't want to find themselves in this situation. But they did. Even when they would rather have said, not me. So y'all come on over before you head out of here tonight. Make sure you come over and see me. And the best part of what I get to do is not, it's not Delta Airlines. It's you. Getting to meet people. And it's the chicken and the mashed potatoes were very good. But the fresh asparagus was really good. But what I really like is the people I get to meet. And the books are over there. Y'all come get a book. I didn't come to sell you books. If you don't have any money, then don't. I'll give you the book. I'll buy it for you. But if you do have money, you should probably give that up. Because, so I'll tell you what I do. That's generally how it lets us raise a lot of money for a lot of great causes. And tonight, what we'll do from what we make from the book sales, we'll do that for Camp Patriot tonight. So y'all, come on over. No one raised their hand that day when they asked for volunteers. He got picked out by default, was the only daddy there. We know what you're thinking, choose someone else instead. But this league was built on coaches who stood right there and said, not me, not me. No way with this job of mine, I could never find the time. Not me, not me. But the world becomes a better place. Someone stands and leads the way, steps forward when they'd rather say, not me. The judge says you're the oldest, makes you the legal guardian. I'm sorry how you lost your folks, but there's no next of kin. Brother and the sister, she knew how hard it's gonna be, but she softly said, I'll raise them, while the voice inside her screamed, not me, not me. I can't believe what's happening. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Not me, not me. But the world becomes a better place. Someone stands and leads the way, steps forward when they'd rather say, not me. A young captain at attention, a star pinned on his chest. He recalls the battle while the final roll calls are read. They were the finest soldiers, it was my privilege to lead. They deserve the medals, the men who died. Not me, not me, not me. I did what I was called to do. I'd do the same if it was you. Not me, Lord knows not me. But the world becomes a better place when someone stands and leads the way, steps forward when they'd rather say, not me. Yeah, yeah, steps forward when they'd rather say, not me. Not me. Hey, God bless you guys. Thank you for what you do. Rangers, lead the way. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, I would like to, at this time, I'd like to introduce Rob DiPiazza. Rob is going to have, looks like Alan Brecky is going to join you on stage. Yeah, Alan, is Alan here? Alan is here, he's got to be here. Better be here. Alan, come on up. There he is. Rob DiPiazza from the Tri-Citian of the Year Committee and Artistic Portraits will present last year's 2012 Tri-Citian of the Year with a portrait. Alan has his own personal portrait recognizing him for this significant event. And I know Rob is very good at what he does, but I want to see if he can make Alan look good. Oh, great job.
What do you think?
Good. It looks good. Really good. Thank you. Really good. Thank you. Outstanding. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to take one moment. I'm very honored. This is my 19th portrait of a Tri-Citian of the Year. These people are amazing. I'm privileged to have met them. But I also want to take a moment. They mentioned the steering committee. Barb, where are you? I want to give a standing ovation to Barb Johnson. This is our third Tri-Citian of the Year event. And she has done an amazing job for 3 years. And thank you. Thank you. I had to do that. Sorry, I'm really good.
So Alan's job isn't done yet. He's got some more work to do. It is the tradition of the previous year's award recipient to his job isn't finished until he has an opportunity to introduce this year's award winner. So with that being said, some people like when you go and the President of the United States is introduced versus somebody like anybody that's introduced, they have to read a long list of what they've done and what they've accomplished, but they don't do that for the President. They only do that for people who aren't as important. So I don't have to list what he's done. He was the 2012 Tri-Citian, or 2013, 2012 Tri-Citian of the Year. So all I have to do is present him, because his accomplishments speak for themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Brecky.
Thank you. Sandra Wilson started this tradition last year. Father Peter Kalunian gave this to me, presented this to me at the after-hours reception last year. Thank you, Sandra, for hosting that. And I said to Peter at Rotary a couple of weeks ago, where did you get that? I have thoroughly enjoyed that, and I will agree to pass it on, but I want one for me. I want to keep it. And he said to me, well, you know, he has a PhD, so he said, look, you're not the Tri-Citian of the Year anymore. You're a Tri-Citian of the Year. So, but he told me where he got it, so this is what I bought for myself. So tonight's honoree will get the one that started. We'll pass that on. I was impressed with last Sunday, Palm Sunday's piece on 60 Minutes on Pope Francis. He was paraphrased in a letter that he wrote to a archbishop that he appointed a cardinal, archbishop in Montreal. And what he said, according to CBS, 60 Minutes, was, this is not to recognize your achievements, and it's not to recognize your competence or to improve your reputation. It's to call on you to spread out and keep going. Pretty nice. And that's kind of the theme that we've already talked about earlier tonight. That's what these previous honorees that are over there on the board have done. Remember the second person that was ever selected, Sam Balpintest, was a booster of the Tri-Cities through his 100th birthday and beyond. He didn't stop. And George Jones is here tonight. He's in his 90s. I've seen him at 2 other functions already this year, and I think there are others that I wasn't at, but he's been a booster of our little river city here. A few other folks that I can mention: Coke, fundraising for the Children's Developmental Center. Bill and George doing countless things, but most recently being instrumental in getting the Hanford Reach Interpretive Center open, grand opening July 4th. The Adams donation of just a few days of some of the profits at all the McDonald's. I mean, that was unheard of. It was tremendous. Fran's 9-year involvement as a WSU regent, bringing an accredited nursing program to our community, and Fran is a Husky. The Zirkles' ongoing commitment to improving worldwide health care. Ken's work to improve mental health services as a deterrent to crime and the tragedy that comes with it. The work that Ron is now starting to help equip the new Trios Southridge Hospital. Skips, Johns, Mikes, Franks, Deans, Rays, Jacks, and Calvins, participation and volunteering. Some of them just showing up at events to say, hey, I am here and I support what you're doing. That's kind of what I'm talking about. It is a calling to spread out and keep going. Since about 2005 or so, I've been on a state board in Olympia. It's called the Community Economic Revitalization Board. I'm actually the chairman right now. This is a statewide group of public bodies, cities, counties, port districts, towns, and then large and small business people appointed by the governor to stimulate economic growth and job creation statewide. So it's geographically all over the state. What is amazing about that group, though, is that those folks know what we do to honor a Tri-Citian of the Year. We are on the map. They respect what we do, and a lot of them really think about trying to do that on their own. So anyway, I said earlier that having that little banner was kind of a joy to me, and I started thinking about what it was that made me so happy about it. And by golly, there is a current movement in American psychology to study the essence of happiness. A fellow named Alan Waterman, he's a PhD and professor in psychology at the College of New Jersey. He is conducting research on what makes people happy. And he says, quote, "When we live in accordance with our truest self, and that truest self is nurturing and making others happy, we are the happiest." Our friend Aristotle used the two Greek words hedonia and eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is E-U-D-A-I-M-O-N-I-A. Hedonia is short-term happiness. Aristotle scolded his fellow citizens who conceived happiness only and solely as pleasure and gratification as, quote, the most vulgar. The life they decide on is a life of grazing animals. Eudaimonia, on the other hand, he said, was, quote, an activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. So the bottom line is one's long-term happiness is best achieved through efforts in making others happy. By the way, don't confuse hedonia, hedonism, with addiction. Addiction is a pathological relationship with a mood-altering experience that has life-damaging consequences. A pathological relationship with a mood-altering experience that has life-damaging consequences. Now, if we were talking about that tonight, we would have to break up into groups, and you all have to share, and then we'll come back and talk about our little problems. But we're not going to talk about that tonight, okay? So, my point is you can see why so many prior persons that have been selected for the honor that we're going to give tonight have kept on giving, because that's long-term happiness. And by the way, there's a new magazine out. It's called Live Happy. Check it out, livehappy.com. So anyway, we are here to honor someone who, that is Blue Water, who has made others happy in our community for many, many years. This person has served as a role model for how to make others happy, how to maintain a happy marriage, a happy family, happy friendships, happy learning experiences, happy comforts of home, both in the home and away from home, and happy essential services for people of all ages. Anyone know who that is? This person is a longtime resident of the Tri-Cities, an active member of our community, very humble, regularly attends church. That eliminates a few of you. By the way, the committee that was just introduced wanted you to know, wanted the persons that did the nominating to know that there were 10 excellent candidates and 3 were very, very, very close. So the message is to the ones that are doing the nominating, don't give up, keep doing it. Keep nominating your candidate. Keep at it. Anyway, our honored person tonight is very successful, respected in many vital sectors of our local and regional economy. Any guess as to who it is? I've known this person for many years and make this introduction from personal, firsthand knowledge. By the way, the after-hours party, there's kind of a slight tradition, very brief after-hours party. It's going to be at my Columbia Point condo in Richland, hosted by myself and Coke and Mary Roth. The directions, Sandra Wilson has directions, and so does Barbara Johnson. And we could actually, I think I could probably fit you all in there. It's 3,100 square feet. So maybe we ought to just go over there and I'll tell you who it is, okay? Have a little hedonia. Let's do some grazing. By the way, the folks that nominated our honoree tonight, Coke and Mary Roth, they nominated me last year. So you might want to get to know Coke and Mary Roth. Coke likes red wine, and Mary likes champagne. And by the way, you know, I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to torture you guys, so. And Barbara Johnson, board chairman of United Way, campaign chairman, president of Columbia Center Rotary, in charge of 2 Rotary conventions, chairman of the Kennewick Public Facilities District, instrumental in building this building that we are in. If you will ever get off the damn committee. She's already set the next year's event for March 21, 2015. So she's going to stay on the committee for a while, but I am going to outsmart you, Barbara. You know, when you go to the Academy Awards, you do these Lifetime Achievement Awards, you know? You know, I can afford one of those statues, and I'm going to get you one of those. Lifetime Achiever, right there. So anyway, back to our person, you know, I've given you all these great clues. This person has supported or sponsored events benefiting the Boy Scouts, Children's Developmental Center, Tri-Cities Prep, March of Dimes, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Women Helping Women, Benton Franklin County FFA stock sale, local food banks, Carson Kolchik Foundation for Autism, Tri-City Water Follies, Nike Tri-Cities Open, Festival of Trees, Mid-Columbia Reading Foundation, and the Hanford Reach Interpretive Center. So now do you know who that is? Of course not. With personal efforts, our nominee oftentimes is seen as hunting with a rifle, relentlessly putting the crosshairs on one project until it is done. And with resources controlled through business and family, our nominee hunts with a shotgun, spraying the power over which he or she can control every corner of community involvement. End of quote. So now do you know who it is? Our honoree, okay, well, I'm narrowing it down. There's 3 more clues, okay? Our honoree is one of the founding members of the local Alexis de Tocqueville Society of United Way, our local social agency which cares for community members, literally from before the cradle to after the grave. Thanks to our honorees' persistent leadership over 15 or so years, the members of the local chapter of the Alexis de Tocqueville Society number 39. There are 39 people. That compares to 11 in the city of Boise. And it compares, well, it's actually 2.5 times as many as Spokane has. The Alexis de Tocqueville people contribute upwards of $700,000 a year, approximately 20% of the entire United Way budget for our community. Okay, still don't know who it is, do you? Okay, this one, this one will give it away. This is next to last. I'm almost done. In a compassionate showing of how to lead this person's family and a daughter's friends through the grief of that daughter's tragic and accidental passing while she was still a vibrant teenager, our honoree started not just an evening fundraiser, but a weekend of activities, golf tournament, auction, etc., enlisting other local, regional, national, and international givers, as well as the youth of our community, raising upwards of $2 million over the years to benefit the Boys and Girls Clubs and Young Life in our town. A lot of you know who that is now, don't you? Okay, and you don't know this one. Last but not least, I've always heard this person say, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. The city of Kennewick has 4 acres of surplus land in the part of town that could house a badly needed Boys and Girls Club building serving our area's most at-risk youth. And this honoree is come up with the idea to put together a package and put a building there for Boys and Girls Club. It's going to take an election. It's taking community leaders. This fellow is, oh, I told you it was a boy. This fellow is enlisting his friends in the business community and is going to make it happen, and he's not going to stop until it does happen. I was so impressed by this. I don't know if you guys remember this little blue Cadillac that I have, the little convertible, the XLR thing. But anyway, I couldn't get a decent enough trade-in from McCurley from it. So I'm going to donate it. And our Lifetime Achiever, Barbara, is going to let us put that car in the mall, and then we'll raffle it off. So you guys, please support this effort. Go to the mall and look at this cute little car and buy a raffle ticket and help Craig Urquhart with this very worthwhile project. Folks, our 2014 Tri-Citian of the Year, Craig Urquhart. Here, you guys. Craig has a family.
Oh, boy. Well, please sit down. Gee. Hi, guys. Wow. Hey, gee, man, I don't know what to say. I'm extremely honored. The whole, gee. It's been a long night, and I know that, I'm extremely humbled and honored to be a part of a very great group of people that are not only on the wall, but also behind me. I want to thank the committee, and as Ellen very appropriately said, this is not the end, but really just a pause in our travels. In 1980, Marilee and I bought what was then called Tri-City Oil Company, and we bought it from my folks, and my dad gave me two pieces of advice. He said, one, pick your friends carefully. And with the exception of one guy in the third row and two in the last row, I did pretty good. The second part, he said, was keep a low profile so the creditors don't keep up with you. And I think tonight ruined that. So as Alan said, we tragically lost. There's a member that is not here with us tonight on the stage. And with Laura's passing, Marilee and I and Chris and Sarah said we need to carry on her legacy of giving back to the community. And I think that Laura would be very proud of what we've accomplished so far and what we have yet to accomplish. I don't want to belabor this. The night is getting late. But again, we are on a path, and our latest endeavor is to add a Boys and Girls Club to downtown Kennewick. Thank you for your applause. It adds support to what we think is a really viable alternative to the problems that we are encountering as a society and our youth are encountering. This is a very proactive approach rather than the reactive approach that Chief Hollenberg is having to deal with on a daily basis. So, with that commercial out of the way, I honestly and am humbled completely. I thank our family, and particularly I thank Marilee. This really should be a joint award in that she is the driving force behind a lot of this. She just sticks me out front. So folks, it's really late, and I thank you again, and I'm extremely honored. Thank you to the committee. Happy Easter.
Each year, the Tri-Citian of the Year in the past has been presented with a Paul Harris Fellowship, which is contributed by the combined Rotary clubs in our recipient's name. This fellowship represents a unique level of participation in the Rotary Foundation, and only a handful of dedicated Rotarians have been accepted into this prestigious society. Our recipient tonight will receive a Paul Harris Fellowship in his name, and that is a great honor indeed. Stand to your feet if you would one more time as we welcome the 2014 Tri-Citian of the Year. Thank you.
Hey, George. Thanks, buddy.